Welcome back, tribe. Welcome to another Sunday coffee talk. I'm going to have to apologize. I am pretty tired, but I didn't want to miss my Sunday coffee talk. I did take about 3 or 4 days off, so I missed my Friday video. We usually post a video on Fridays around 8 a.m. Eastern time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I have a wonderful story for you, really about identity, but more in like when you start to kind of follow your identity, you start to when you start to kind of make decisions like that successful version of you, you're always going to be tested. Okay. No matter what we're going to call it, God's testing you, the universe is testing you. The universe will kind of throw something in as a test to see if you pass that test. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's something I just went through. And I've been through it before, but this has been a wonderful 3 or 4 days I wanted to share with you. And I will be doing another video on this, like once I kind of regroup myself, not be so tired, and be able to write down some key points. But let's talk about this. But before we get going with the Sunday Coffee Talks, always remember we have the Super Thing Spotlight going on. The Sunday Coffee Talks really will kind of, as we get going, get some momentum going with the Sunday Coffee Talks, it will only be for Super Thanks. So what it is you leave a Super Thanks question about success, about manifesting. It could be something you're struggling with, something you need more information on, maybe a hurdle you're trying to get over. You leave a Super Thanks Spotlight question, and that's what we do. That's what we actually discuss on Sundays. So remember, that's always going on. Anything we talk about in this video is in the description. So remember that. Other than that, let's get rocking and rolling. Now, let me take a sip of my coffee here. But this is what I want to say, an authentic Sunday coffee talk. Like I said, we actually just got home we hit Surin City about 4:30, 4:45, something like that in the morning, Sunday morning. Then we took a tuk-tuk, which is kind of like a taxi in Thailand, about 30 minutes to the house. So then I took a nap. Then I just woke up about 15 minutes ago. I wanted to do this bad boy. I wanted to share my experience with you about how does life test you. And it really starts testing you when you start shifting your identity. So when we talk about identity here, really quick, what happened for me, I'm going to tell you my story here in a snapshot. I think you'll get a really good idea what I'm talking about here. And probably starting about last week, I made 2 videos. I made a video on how Abdullah trained Neville Goddard, and I'll post that in the description below for you to check out. And that was more over Abdullah really trained Neville Goddard in esoteric Bible interpretation. Like all the stories in the Bible, they're real stories, but there's like a metaphor meaning around the story that we're really not taught. Okay. Then maybe a week later, I made another video on the Bible verse that Neville Goddard would use all the time, and that is be still and know that I am God. And we actually break down this verse the same way Abdullah would if he was training Neville Goddard in esoteric Bible wisdom or interpretation. So, and of course, when I'm making the videos, I'm putting everything together. Sometimes it's these types of videos take a couple days of planning, then doing it, then editing it, and stuff like that. So, I've always been in identity, always been into following that successful version of myself. That's what I mean by identity is there's going to be your current identity right now. So what you have to understand, your current identity right now is what's really holding you back. I mean, this is where all your same patterns, your old habits come from, that the old decisions you're making, that's what's keeping you stuck. And when we want to try to be kind of manifest in God mode or be more successful, it's all about identity. This is the root cause to all of our issues. It's how we see ourselves. It's like self-image. Bob Proctor used to talk about self-image all the time. It's about confidence. Also confidence is in there too. How well do you see yourself? But what we have to understand is that your old when you want your dream house, your dream car, your dream life, your old identity can't come with you. Okay. It's not a blend of your old identity and that successful version of you. You kind of have to burn and get rid of that old identity. Only one identity is moving forward. So that's how you have to look at it. Like your old identity isn't going to give you what you want. Your old identity isn't going to give you that dream life. Okay. It's only your new identity, but it's only one identity is moving forward, not two of them. Okay. Okay. One of them has to take over. And most of the time right now, it's your current identity is going to be more powerful than that successful version of you. And that's why things take time. Okay. Not to get kind of down a rabbit hole, but just to explain before I get to my story, that's sometimes why things take time, because that's why we always say, like in manifesting or success, is it's you're working on yourself. You have to become a better person in order to be that millionaire, in order to have that dream house. You have to become better. And that's what I mean by that. As you're becoming better, you're shaping that new identity. You're shaping that more successful version of yourself. And with that, this is the core message here. With that, when we start following our new identity, okay, this is what happened to me. When we start following it, and we start carrying ourselves like living in the end, like Never Galter, we start carrying ourselves as if we already have what we want. We start carrying ourselves as that millionaire and that millionaire mindset. You start carrying yourself like you already have your dream house, your dream car, your dream career, your dream job, giving to charities, whatever you want to do. You start carrying yourself like that. But what ends up happening is when you carry yourself like that, life is going to test you. Whatever we want to say, if it's God testing you, if it's the universe testing you, to really see kind of like if you're going to pass the test. I hate to say it that way, but like, are you going to pass the test? And it's usually a decision. It's usually, and this is what happened to me, it's usually a decision. And the decision is a two-way decision. It's like you're going to be faced with a decision while you're acting as if, technically, you're going to be faced with a decision that either your old identity, that old self, is going to answer and maybe always say no, or your new identity, that successful version of you, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? You're going to be faced with that decision. And which way are you going to go? And I want to kind of put in a snaps here. My brain is tired. I do apologize. But I know there's some of you out there that will say, well, Chad, I might be faced with a decision to go buy my dream car and I can't buy my dream car. I might be faced with a decision to go shopping in the mall and spend a few $1,000s that I don't have. No, you guys aren't paying attention here. You guys are missing the point. Okay. In all my experience, every time the universe tests you, in this example that I'm going to give you here, every time it tests you, every time God tests you, every time your intuition tests you, your intuition tells you to do something, your gut feeling tells you to do something. What you have to understand is your intuition is not going to give you something that you cannot handle. Bottom line, it's not going to give you something that is so far-fetched and put you in massive debt and you go broke. It's not going to do that to you. Okay, if you really follow your intuition. Okay, but what it is going to do, there is going to be some fear in there. It's going to be enough fear to keep you bound in your old identity. Does that make sense? And I know you can't answer me, but it's not going to be too far out there, but it's still going to be fear in there. Because remember, it's going to take you up to that fear barrier, and either you bust through the fear barrier, your new identity, or you kind of run back to your comfort zone where that old identity is still in control. Okay, so remember that. Like your intuition, your gut feeling, it's not going to have you do stuff that's so far off of you achieving. It's not going to do that to you. You have to trust that. You have to trust the process. You really have to trust that God is inside you, that He's leading you. Okay, the great I am is inside you, whatever you want to call it. Okay, if you just believe you're a spiritual being, that your spirit is inside you, it's not going to lead you the wrong way. So let me take a sip of coffee and let's get on with my story. So, like with my story, about 3 or 4 days ago, and a lot of my videos, I've been kind of keeping you guys up to date with. April's been April is Sagrand, their Thailand's New Year in Sagrand. It's kind of like around April 12th, something like that. But April, since we're up in the village in Ing's house, pretty much April has been like a whole month of vacation. Not so much for me because I still work and stuff like that. But Ang has had like multiple, family members, cousins, and stuff like that really come home the whole month of April. So 3 4 days ago, I we her I think it was her cousin. Her cousin came to visit, and her cousin's husband came to visit, and they live in France. So they came to visit, and a few days ago, this was their last day, and they were only going to be here a couple more hours. They were getting ready to take a taxi up to certain city and take a bus, and they were going to go down to the go down to the beach, spend a couple days down there, and so I thought, well, I'll go over. I just had it. It's funny. This is funny how your intuition is because remember what I told you is I'm carrying myself in my new identity. I'm kind of getting good at it. I'm waking up. If my mind drifts off, I have affirmations, robotic affirmations, whatever you want to call it, that kind of keep basically when my mind goes in the gutter, I have stuff that I say to myself that kind of takes me out of the gutter, basically. And so I'm carrying myself in my new identity. I'm carrying myself in that multi-millionaire identity. I'm the $15 million man. I'm carrying myself that identity. I'm doing pretty good with it. And I just had this intuition because Aang was kind of getting ready to go over. But she said, well, maybe we'll go over, like maybe they're here for the last half hour, just go over and say goodbye and come back. But I had this intuition they had 2 hours left, and I thought it's been like super hot out, and to be transparent, there's a little like mom and pop shops. If you live in a village, there's little mom and pop shops you can buy stuff from. So I thought, well, I'll go up there and buy a few beers and take the beers over. So I drove the motorbike up, grabbed a few beers, and just drove over to their place to have a few beers with Ronald. That's her Ains cousin's husband's name, and have a few beers with him. Kind of do our last chat, kind of our last talk. And so that's what I did. I just followed my intuition, did it, didn't think anything of it. Went over there, and we're kind of having a few beers. Anne's looking for me, but she didn't know where I went. So when I was over there, I told Gay, that's her cousin, and I said, hey, can you text Anne? Because I didn't bring my phone with me. She's probably looking for me. So she texts Anne saying, hey, Chad's over here. So Anne comes over. So then we kind of spent maybe an hour over there, just chatting. They're getting ready to leave. But then probably an hour left. There's how quick it happened. An hour before they're going to leave, Gay asked Aang, like in Thai, oh, do you want to go? Do you want to come with us? Because we're going to shoot down. Right now, I forget what it's called. I apologize. It's not the ocean, but it's really like a scenic. It's like a sea, but you cover with mountains. You can do like kayaking in there. They wanted to go and actually climb the mountain. We'll get to that in a second because I'm actually scared of heights. So we'll get to that in a second. So the mountain had like 7 waterfalls, but the best one was at the top, of course. Of course, the best one's at the top. So they want to go down and do there, and they're going to spend that's the last of their vacation. Is the last 2 or 3 days is spent down there. So just out of the blue, she says, well, do you want to come with us? So Aang looks at me, repeats it in English, of course, say, well, she wants to know if we want to come. And remember, I'm in that identity. And I'm like, right away, I didn't even think. I was like, yeah, sure. And Aang's face was just like really? Like, seriously. But I think she was thinking I was going to say no. So then she was like, So like she tells Gay and tells then her husband sitting right there, of course. He speaks, he speaks English and French, a little bit Thai. So they're kind of excited. But listen to this. Aang asked me probably 4 times, like within a 10-minute period. Like, are you sure? Like, I was like, oh yeah, we can go. So Aang was excited. And to me, like now thinking back, it's so funny because that for me that was a test. And this wasn't it. I'll continue on. But because I easily could have said no, because remember, I know you guys don't know, but sometimes I share stuff throughout different videos. Is and this is May, so beginning of May. So in June, Aang and I are planning to go down to Jomtien, check out Jomtien, probably move from Seren down to Jomtien. So probably in a month we're moving. So that's gonna keep that in the back of your mind. Like it could have been so easy for my old identity to say no and have excuses not to go. And my excuses would actually be valid because it's like, well, no, we're gonna be spending extra money on moving in a month and stuff like that. It'd probably be better to stay and not go. Um, but I didn't do that. I mean, I didn't even think. I was just like, yeah, we can go. So Aang asked me like 4 times, and she was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Because I gotta go back. So, but they're leaving in 1 hour. So that's basically what we did. Just like a spur of the moment thing. And that question, what I mean, that question lingered with me for a few days. Like it's funny how when we when we want to follow our identity, when we want to live in the end like never God ordered, we want to act as if we're shedding that old identity to become new identity. We're really being self-aware of what we're thinking about through the day. And life is going to throw you a test. Life is going to throw you a decision, yes or no. Do you do it or don't do it? And it's going to be intuition. And when I think back at this, it was even my intuition to be there at the right time, telling me, "Oh, go buy some few beers and go have a few beers with Ronald before a couple hours before they go." If I wouldn't have done that, that question never would have transpired, because Aang on our conversation before I actually went and got the beer was we were just going to go over like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes tops before they left, not 2 hours before. So everything just aligns itself perfectly. Sometimes has no logic to it. And that's what we have to understand with manifesting is when you're following your identity, that you're that successful version of you. Lots of times there's no logic to this stuff at all. But anyway, that's not where my story ends because I'm carrying myself in this new identity. And I made this decision to go at the last minute. We run over here and pack. And I never stepped out of my new identity. I never got nervous. I never got like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go. Maybe I made a rash decision. Nothing. I felt calm, like calm as shit. Basically, nothing was affecting me. And so we had to travel. We had to travel from Seren. We had to take a bus down to Seren to Bangkok, then take it was a long route. And one day of travel, we did a lot. Then once we were in Bangkok, we had to take a taxi from there to their metro, like a train station, then take a train station at the farthest we could at the edge of Bangkok, then go to the bus station, then take a bus another 2.5 hour, 3 hours to actually our destination. So it was a long way. One day of travel was pretty intense. But the whole time I stayed in that new identity. The whole time I mean, I'm just being honest, like never mind, my mind never drifted. And we finally get to the hotel or the resort that they booked. And during the time, like Gay, Aang's cousin, she was saying like, where does Chad want to stay? Stuff like that. And Aang was trying to be careful with it a little bit, but she wasn't too sure. Um, and Aang picked this resort. Then she she saw the prices online. So Ang's looking at me like, are these prices okay? And I'm just like, well, sure, why not? So again, like sometimes Ang will ask me like 2 or 3 times, sometimes 4 times, are you sure this price? But she just want to make sure everything's okay. So I said, sure, why not? But I'm still answering it with this successful version of me. It's like another question. And so we finally get there in person. I thought Gay had everything booked, but she didn't because she didn't have her bank account linked to Ogonda, which is like a Thai company. So when we get there, they have these when we're checking in, they have these like bungalows sitting on the water. So since Gay and her husband Ronald was basically on vacation mode, they're really on vacation. So he wants to get like a bungalow on the water. And I didn't know. At first, I thought we were gonna get one room, share the whole room, but we ended up get excuse me, but we ended up getting 2 rooms because when we went, we brought Guy with us. That's Ang's nephew. Then Gay brought Noon with her, and that's her niece. So they're the same age. Guy's like 2021. Noon is 2021 herself. So they had that rule where you couldn't have more than 3 people per room. So we couldn't put 6 people in a room, and they didn't have a room big enough to do that. So so Ronald wanted to stay on the bungalows right on the river because your balcony is basically the river. You could just jump right off in the river, either go kayaking, swim, whatnot. So Ang's kind of nervous at this point because Ang don't like water. She's kind of scared of water. She don't know how to swim and stuff like that. So so she comes to me. She's more concerned about me because if we have the bungalow on the water, that's the most expensive room. You know what I mean? So she's coming, are you or is it okay? Plus we're going to have to rent 2 nights. So I said, sure. Then she's like, yeah, but we have to get our own room. We have to get 2 rooms. They won't let us get one. So I said, sure, why not? We're here, you know. It didn't phase me. And if you know me a little bit for that old identity, sometimes I don't like to spend money. Even if I have the money. You see how I'm getting, even if I have it, I'll get anxious around it. I won't like to spend it. You know what I mean? I mean, it took me forever. I mean, even here, I'm sitting in my office here, even forever. Now, this is my Thailand office, just to make a decision to upgrade all my computers and stuff like that. So I was like, sure, why not? I didn't even hesitate. Then once we made a decision, my gut feeling again, my intuition spoke up and said, you pay for the rooms. You pay for the rooms, Chad. You step up and pay for the room. Remember what I said in some of my videos? It's how do you act when you're in front of a group of people? Okay, you could be going out to eat with friends and stuff like that, and when it becomes time to pay your bill, do you find yourself gradually moving in the back? You're doing it. You're trying to do it natural, so people don't know what you're doing, but you're kind of moving in the back to see if someone else is going to pay. My intuition spoke up again. And you know what I did? I didn't even hesitate. I reached in my wallet, got my card, and and this is like when we finally made a decision what room we were getting, and I gave him my card. Now Ronald and Gay did split everything with me, but just doing that initiation, like I'm not scared. I'm not scared to spend money. I'm not scared to pay for things. You know what I mean? To me, this trip was like a huge, like, conquering myself. Makes sense. Even though it was a fun trip, fantastic trip. It's like you're conquering yourself. So, so that's what I did. We got the rooms. We went down. We checked in, and they had this great big, like, almost like I want to call it a party boat. It wasn't really a party boat, but it was big enough that you can have a party. But then we ended up booking that because the next day we were going to go on this hike, that which I'm scared of heights, and especially Thailand's different when it comes to heights. I'll get that in a second. that they wanted to go on this hike that was close to the resort that you could hike up. The farther you hike up, that's 7 waterfalls. You're hiking up this mountain. So so they had this boat, so we can go down the boat and get a scenic route. They can drop us off. So we had to book that. Then of course Aang comes to me and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay with that?" I said, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." And so we did that the next day. So let's flip to the next day. So the story, I mean, it just doesn't stop. This was like a conquering self. It wasn't really the weekend. It was like a midweek thing, a conquering self weekend for me. So the next day, we had breakfast. So breakfast came with the room, and we had the party boat. I'll just nickname it the party boat. Set scheduled for 9 a.m. and it's going to take us to our destination to go on this huge hike. So we go on the hike, and mind you, like I'm kind of like, I mean, I can go some height, okay, I can go some high, but my whole life I've been pretty much scared of heights. I don't like it. I get really nervous, really anxious, and just to be transparent. And now sometimes when I'm around it, as a kid or a teenager, if I went to like festivals and parks or theme parks a lot, I can warm up to it, but not doing that stuff for years. You know what I mean? Like if you get a little bit older, you haven't done stuff for years, like like it can kind of like that's a fear barrier. It can really keep you in your comfort zone. Okay, so we go, and we're having a good time. We get to the second destination was kind of the best. It was like the biggest, and we all had to of course we had to pay to get in. We had to pay for life jackets because it was mandatory you have a life jacket. And one of the things that kind of happened with me that sometimes bothers me in Thailand is lots of times when you go to places like that, if you're a Fulong, if you're a foreigner, lots of times Thai will get in for free and they'll charge you to get in. Lots of times that bothers me, but it happened to me this time. But you know what? It didn't bother me. It just kind of like it was like I was a ball, and it's just like anything negative was just bouncing off of me. Like you know. Hopefully my body's not shaped like a ball, but anything negative coming to me, it would just flip and bounce off. It didn't absorb in me at all. And that's what happened when we didn't actually pay for our tickets. Thai, if you were Thai got charged 60 baht. Then if you're a Fulong foreigner, you got charged 300 baht. So you got charged 5 times more than a Thai person. And it just bounced off me. It was just kind of like, Aang was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, of course, because she knows sometimes that bothers me a little bit. That's something you just have to get over in Thailand. It's going to happen to you. There's nothing you can do. No matter if you sit there and argue or not, they're still going to do it." Um, so I said, "Yeah, it's 300 baht. I mean, who cares? It has. I mean, and that's what I told Aang. It has nothing to do with me. It doesn't affect me. If they overcharge me, it has nothing to do with me. It's all on them. You know what I mean? That's what keeps them in poverty because they feel like they have to rip you off to get ahead in life. Their energy is not my energy, not my energy, baby. You know. So we paid for everything, got our life jackets. We got up to the second destination, the second waterfall. That was the best out of all of them, and because it was huge. And the waterfalls were you could swim in the waterfalls. That's why you needed a life vest because you could actually go in and swim, which is really nice. Well, one, it was really nice, but it was hot in Thailand. So when you're hiking, you're just drenching in sweat. So when you get to one destination, it just felt so good to get in the water and cool off. That's basically what made us like be able to do this whole hike, to cool off the body. But anyway, we weren't even halfway yet. We were probably a quarter of probably a quarter of a way. So we come up to these big stairs. And I know Thailand because I've been in Thailand for 4 years. And when you hike, Thailand sometimes don't have normal stairs. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes the steps can be like really high. Like you're really like you're no, the steps aren't like really tiny like normal steps. Sometimes they can be really high where you're really stretching your leg to step up there. Sometimes they could be shallow, like really I mean really skinny steps like you're a kid. You know what I mean? Like I wore like a child's shoe. Anyway, we get to this point, but I'm just looking straight up. And but remind you, the whole time I'm in this successful version of me identity. I never broke that identity. I'll be honest, I never broke that flipping identity the whole time I was gone. And I just stayed focused. I stayed focused looking up. As long as I stay focused looking up, I can do it. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's always coming back down. We'll get to that. We'll get to that part in a little bit. When you go up, yeah, you got to come back down. A helicopter is not going to come save you. so, so, so I did it. I went up, and at first, it kind of like when I went up, my mind's playing tricks on me a little bit. So I'm thinking, there's probably more, or there could be higher ones. You know what I mean? Because we're like 25% of the way. We're not even at a halfway mark at this point. And I'm just envisioning that, oh, by the time we hit the seventh one, it's going to be maybe a really inclined set of stairs to go up, and there really wasn't. That was the worst one. It's so funny. The worst one was in the beginning. You know what I mean? That could have stopped me right there. I could have said, you know what? And I've done this in the past, where it's like, oh, you guys go ahead, and I'll hang down here. I've done that before, but this time I didn't do that. But it's so funny, like the kind of the metaphor of everything. The highest, the highest stairs was in the flipping beginning. Now there was like some like medium high ones. There was a couple like bridges that didn't have guardrails that you just walking straight across. Especially if you're kind of nervous and scared, your mind like, oh, I might fall over. But I did it. And it was an amazing experience. You know why? Because when I got to the top, we did get to the top. I did make it to the top. The first thing I saw on the top was they had this sign. It was like written in wood. And it said, I am a conqueror. No, it didn't say that. It says, you are a conqueror. And I read it over and over. I saw that's the first thing I saw. It said, you are a conqueror. And I rephrased it and I said, I am a conqueror. I conquered it. I conquered myself. Even though how little it is, I conquer myself. This 2 or 3 days is like conquering self. You're conquering your identity. This whole 2 or 3 days. And we spent some time up there where they had a waterfall you could swim. I actually like jammed up my toe up there. There was a lot of rocks. I kept on hitting my big toe, the same toe. Kept on hitting my big toe on the rocks, and it was pretty sore the next day. And we spent some time up there. They had this little cave you can kind of go into, like under the waterfall. But then, of course, we have to go back down. And, sometimes going up the stairs is okay because I can focus. I can focus on where I'm not like looking around and looking down. I can focus my attention going up. But now, baby, we got to go back down. So the work's not done yet for me. I made it to the top. I'm a conqueror. And I would say this to myself. I'm a conqueror. I conquered self here. But the big but was I got to go back down. And going back down the stairs is way different from going up because now when you go back down, you're looking down. You're not looking up. You're not staying focused on something right in front of you. You're literally looking down. And I can envision this set of stairs that almost made me stop way in the beginning. I could envision it like, I got to walk down that baby. And it was kind of steep. In Thailand, sometimes they can have really steep stairs. Is this safe to even go up? It feels like I'm walking just straight up. Not joking. So we start going back down, and the whole goal was we're going to go down and we're going to hang out for a little bit in waterfall number 2. That was the best one. But to get to waterfall number 2, of course, I have to go down these long stairs. So So we're gonna go there, maybe grab something to eat while we're down there. But that's where all the food was. Hang out for a half hour or so before we go back to the hotel. And you know what? Well, of course I'm here. I did make it down. They didn't have to. They didn't have to send a helicopter to get me off the mountain. But the whole time I'm going down, I'm getting a little bit more anxious. I know, too. When I get to these stairs, am I going to be able to go down these stairs? So I start having these affirmations, like, I'm like when that was in my head because I'm a conqueror. I conquered self here. I conquer this mountain. And every time I thought about the stairs, I would say to myself something mumbling out loud that these stairs are my bitch. Like the stairs are not my bitch. Okay, the stairs are my bitch. I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm not. It's not weakening me. So every time I thought about it, now this is what I'm saying to myself, just being transparent. If you don't like my language, you don't like it. But but um, but all the way down, going down. This was a long hike back down. This was a 10-minute hike. And of course, I'm going down, other stairs that are a little bit wheezy. I'm still walking across like this stuff that don't have like guardrails on it. Sometimes stairs don't have a guardrail going down. You just have to walk. You're just walking straight down, like on stone steps. Uh, but every time I got nervous, I'm the $15 million man, baby. These stairs are my bitch. Okay, life is my bitch. Life life is for me, not against me. This how I'm talking to myself all the way down. Because I know I got to confront these stairs. And lo and behold, you know what? Know what happened? When I got to the stairs, like it was so big in my mind. That fear just made it so big in my mind. But once I got there and I saw it, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. And I pretty much just walked down the stairs like normal. Now they had a little guardrail there on one side that you can hang on to, kind of balance yourself. Plus, I had like a backpack on, but it wasn't that bad, and it was amazing because it made me kind of think, like when we think about something scares us, and it could be heights, something like this, like the fear builds up so much in your mind, but it's really not that scary. Once I came to it the second time around. And I've been saying this affirmation, walking all the way down the mountain. By the time I got there, it wasn't that bad. I was like, why was I scared in the beginning? It wasn't that bad. So we made it down. We hung out a little bit at the waterfall number 2. We ate some soup there. Then we shot back over to the resort, and the boat, basically the big party boat, picked us up, and we came back. That was terrific. Wonderful views. I took so many pictures. I won't show the pictures here, but I will do another video around the same topic. But I'll show all the pictures that kind of go with my story. Be a little bit more of a story format, but to kind of show you kind of what we were doing and going through and stuff like that. But it didn't stop there. It didn't stop. Okay, my new identity didn't stop. I didn't stop being confronted with stuff. After I made that first choice to go in the very beginning, and the next time I really got confronted was the next day. Oh, that night we took the party boat to actually see the sunset. Now that was free because it came with a room. Since we got the bungalow rooms, kind of the best rooms, it came with, you could take the party boat out for free, and they would take you down to see the sunset. Then you could play on. They had these great big rafts on the boat where you could go play on the water if you wanted to. So we did do that, and then the next day we were booking stuff because we're getting ready to travel back up to Bangkok because they needed to come to Bangkok to go to the airport to fly home. Then of course we needed to go to Bangkok so we could take a bus back up to Surin. And this was the whole another one, is I left this part out because this is kind of the climax of staying in staying in my new identity is that when we in the very beginning when we made a decision to go, Gay and her husband, they already had their train booked, and since we made our decision at the last minute, there was really no choices for us. It was too late to take a bus down to Bangkok, and we could take the train, but we had to take the cheapest train, um, like very very cheap. Usually, like Thai people will use it. Usually, kind of the poor. I mean, you hate to say it, but it's true. If you live in another country, usually kind of the poorer Thai will use a cheaper train. Um, I mean, that's just how it is in Thailand. Thailand is still very, very old fashioned when it comes to that stuff. When you're talking about first class, second class, third class, like when I give Neville Goddard examples, it's still that way in Thailand. If you actually talk to the locals, that's how they think. Well, that's first class, that's second class, that's third class. Um, and even when you look at tradition in Thai, even today, even like a Thai that goes to college, they will not mingle with poor Thai or mingle with a Thai that's maybe their family's poor. They're kind of separate from you. It's a very old tradition here that really people don't share in the videos if they just do Thailand videos, but it's still like that here. But anyway, we had no choice. So we had to take the cheapest train from Surin to Bangkok because we couldn't schedule it. It was too late. So, 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 I mean, the cheapest train, like they left the lights on the whole time. We're traveling at nighttime. So they left the lights on the whole time. You couldn't sleep. You're sitting right beside each other. They told us when we booked it, they told us we all sat together, but it was a lie. We sat in the same train compartment, but we all sat scattered. Then we didn't have window seats with aisle seats. Then like you only could sit like when they make seats on these cheap trains. I'm not even that big of a guy, and like I'm already like hanging over the seat, like I'm like sitting like this, and the train is 8 hours. Okay, this isn't an hour. This isn't an hour train. This is an 8 hour train to go from Surin to Bangkok. So for 8 hours, the lights are on. You're traveling at nighttime. You can't sleep. You're sitting like this. Or Aang took a picture of me. I'm like this, trying to sleep. So when it came down to our last day, let's fast forward here. It came down to our last day, and so Aang's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" Because we have to take once we get to Bangkok, when we go to Surin, we're going to take a bus or a train up in Surin. At this point, she's talking to the new identity Chad. Okay. And I said, "There's no way. There's no way in hell I'm taking that cheap train again." I was like, "No. Like if you want to take the train, we're paying for the best train. Whatever you call it here, VIP, first class, whatever. I'm paying extra for the train." And remind you, I'm paying for me, I'm paying for Aang, plus I'm paying for Guy. There's three of us. Okay. So they're all going to come with me. So whatever I'm taking, they're taking. And she said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, there's no way." I go, "Plus, I want to work. I don't want to come back exhausted. And it takes me 2 days to recuperate just because we saved a little bit of money. I guess it's not worth it." She said, "Okay." But what we ended up doing, we didn't book the train, like a nicer train. We ended up booking a bus, but the bus was, they have like in Thailand, they have buses that are, sometimes they call them VIP buses, sometimes they call them first class, a first class bus. It kind of reminds you when you go on it. I did book it, but you have way bigger seats. You can kind of lean back and sleep. You have a TV. It almost reminds you that if you've done first class in an airplane before, it kind of reminds you of that. Has that feel to it. Almost feels like I'm on an airplane, not a bus. Um, but that's what I did. I was like, dude, no, no, there's no way I'm taking the train like that. No way. I'm not doing my body, because we went hiking, we walked so much. Like, it's like, dude, no, I can't do it. And I stayed in that identity. I made that decision on that identity. And we took the train back up here. Then I tipped the girl, kind of the hostess walking around. Plus, we got free food on there and stuff like that. But the whole time, now this is the end of it. by the time we got back here, it took like a 5 hour nap and woke up to do this coffee talk, by the way. And and I can honestly say the whole time, the 3, 4 days, I never broke my new identity. Okay, even though the main one in the very beginning, the main question, Chad, do you want to go? You know what I mean? I didn't hesitate. Yeah. Okay. Knowing that, we're moving in a month, or well, probably 95% moving in a month. Okay. Yeah. Then knowing also, Gay and Ronald is on vacation. They're in vacation mode. So knowing that they're going to spend some money if they're on vacation. Yeah. We got the same room they did everything they did. Okay. Broke that fear barrier on my heights, like being scared of heights, not fond of heights. You know what I mean? And, also just spending money, like tipping, just, stepping up and being the first person to pay for things. You know what I mean? And it all took root. And that's the whole point. I know this was a long story, and it's like 45 minutes, but the whole point is when you're acting as if you're acting like that new identity. Okay, you're living in the end, no matter what you want to call it. You're always going to be faced. It's always going to test you. You're always going to be faced with a decision that either your old self will answer or your new self will answer. They both aren't going to answer together. It's a choice. Okay. When you want your dream life or whatever that is for you, your old identity cannot come with you. You have to burn it. You have to get rid of it. That's what takes time. That's what it takes time for this stuff. Okay. But you're always going to be tested. You're always going to be faced with, it's almost like God is saying, the universe is saying, you're acting as if, are you really ready? Are you ready for this? No, and you throw out a question. Someone throw out a question, put you in a place. You'll be in the right place at the right time, and you'll be forced to answer a question, forced to do something that's going to be a little bit fear for you. But remember, your intuition, your gut feeling, you're going to be your spirit, whatever you want to believe. It's not going to give you too much. It's not going to give you too much that you can't handle. It will be a little bit where it will give you fear, but it's not going to be too much. Okay, y'all remember that. Okay, it's not going to, if you really can't afford your dream car, it's not going to tell you to go buy your dream car. You have to understand that. Okay, if you really can't afford going out and buying $5,000 worth of clothes and going on a shopping spree, it's not going to tell you to do that. Bottom line. Okay. But it is gonna rock your boat a little bit. It's gonna rock that fear barrier a little bit, and it's gonna rock it because it's your new identity is starting to take over, and it's burning that old identity. That's basically what's going on. But other than that, my friends, this was a long chat, a long example in this coffee talk. We're going almost 50 minutes here. Let's wrap this baby up. Remember, we always have the Super Thanks Spotlight. If you lasted this long, if you have a question with manifesting success, ask it in a Super Thanks. And that's what the Coffee Talks will be about every single week. That's always going on. All the videos I discuss is in the description. That I discuss in the video, at least brought up in the video. That's in the description as well. But other than that, peace out. Blessings to you. Remember, I love you guys. And I will see you next week.